Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining today. I have a few reminders while folks are still joining before we get started. We like to keep our webinars conversational and welcome your questions throughout. You can send your questions to the panel through the Q&A button located on your Zoom control panel. We will try to answer as many questions as we can live, but if we don't get to your question, we'll be sure to follow up with you afterwards. You can follow today's conversation on Twitter, as we'll be live tweeting throughout the webinar at Rio_SEO and using hashtag RioWebinar. Finally, we will send a link to the webinar recording within the next 24 hours, so look out for a follow-up email from our marketing team. All right, we'll go ahead and get started here. My name is Pam Gray. I'm an account director at Rio SEO, and I will be moderating today's discussion. Today, we're joined by a fantastic panel of digital marketing and Google Business Profile product experts to help us discuss what's changed so far in 2022. Essential updates to make to your existing marketing campaigns and best practices for refreshing your local SEO strategy. I'm joined today by Amanda Tinto, Google Business Profile expert and educator, Lauren Etter, VP of Client Success at LSM Digital Marketing Agency, and Sherry Benelli, SEO and digital marketer and Google Business Profile Gold product expert. I'll have you all briefly introduce yourselves and your background. Amanda, if you'd like to go first, and then we'll go with Lauren and then Sherry.
Sure, thank you, Pam. I am Amanda Tinto, and I own TDM Marketing, which we focus primarily on Google My Business, now Google Business Profile, listings, and helping our clients to get more traction, more phone calls, more website visits. We really focus on those actions as opposed to the ranking. So
great. And my name is Lauren Etter. I work for LSM. We're a full service digital marketing agency out of Nashville, Tennessee. And we really focus on the multi-location brands and really helping with local search, both from an SEO and an SEM standpoint.
And I am Sherry Benelli. I am the owner of Early Bird Digital Marketing in lovely Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I am also a Google Business Profile Platinum product expert. I was recently kind of promoted to a Platinum, so that's very exciting. And we are a full service agency. We primarily focus on search engine optimization and content marketing and reputation marketing as well, but we handle everything.
Great. Thank you all so much for that. Before we jump in, we want to get started with a quick audience poll to see where you think you need the most spring cleaning in terms of your marketing efforts. There are 5 answers to choose from. It's going to be my content efforts, technical website fixes, my local listings, my online reputation management efforts, and my SEO efforts. So we'll just give that a minute. Give it a few more minutes here. All right. So it looks like my SEO efforts was the top pick at 40%, followed by my content efforts. So those are the two top ones there, but we're going to be touching on all of these different topics, but that's good to know. So bear with me for just a second here. All right, so sticking with the theme of refreshing, there is no better time than now to review your site to find the often overlooked items that drag down natural search performance. In the last year alone, Google rolled out the page experience update aimed at rewarding brands in search performance results who provide a great on-page user experience. Sherry, let's start by you having you answer this one. What are the top fixes, both short-term and long-term, that you'd recommend businesses focus on to improve the user experience and boost its natural search performance in the process?
I think one of the things that you should do is definitely look at refreshing older content. So you may find you want to look at maybe Google Analytics or use one of your SEO tools and see, for instance, if there's pages that are close to ranking high on the first page of Google, and figure out ways you can improve that content so that maybe you can bump that content up in the ranking. So that's always a good opportunity for you to refresh content. The other thing you want to see is there older pieces of content that you have that maybe you can combine with other pieces of content? So we recently did this with one of my clients who's a video production company. During COVID, they obviously lost a lot of their live events. And so they had to do live streaming. And so they had a lot of live streaming content, like blog posts and even some content on their website. So what we did is we took a lot of those different pieces of that content and put them together. And maybe we merged actually some of their blog posts and created a larger piece of content with infographics and YouTube videos and lots of things that Google likes to see on a page, and made a larger piece of content instead of a bunch of different little pieces of content. And that way we weren't cannibalizing, the keywords that we were trying to rank for. And so that's something you can look at doing as well. And then I would also look at the internal linking opportunities. John Mueller from Google recently said that internal linking is a really good opportunity for you to tell Google what pages are important on your website. And so I think that a lot of businesses don't kind of think of what pages should I be linking to from my current pieces of content. And I think obviously every page should have links from one page to another page. So I think that those are just some, ideas that you should start with. I think that those would make for a great user experience and to keep site users on your site longer.
Perfect. That's great advice. Lauren, what are the most important SEO elements to fix first, or what elements actually impact ranking?
Yeah, well, as you guys know, a lot impacts ranking. Kind of really the first thing that we want to look at whenever we get a new website or get a new client on board is what's broken. Do we have broken links on the website? Are there broken images throughout the site? I'm kind of going through the broken items on a website first for user experience as well as Google will help kind of block and tackle that kind of first priority. From there, think from a technical aspect of, how does Google read your site? How does Google understand what's important and to navigate your website? So looking at things like your sitemap, ensuring that your website's actually indexed for Google to see your website, I think is a big priority. Also adding schema to the site so that you're physically telling Google more information about your business. And then thirdly, I would say making sure that your local listings, if you have physical brick and mortars, are up to date and have all of the correct information listed.
All right, great. That's great advice. Sticking with the theme of SEO optimization, this can be a difficult endeavor to manage at scale. Amanda, what are the tools for SEO you'd recommend brands leverage, and how do these tools help with SEO?
One of the tools that all of my clients, whenever I screen share, are always like, can I get that? Can I get that? Is obviously Keywords Everywhere. It's such a huge tool, especially for content creation, and it's super inexpensive. There's not, a huge barrier to entry. Any business owner can and probably should be using some sort of keyword research tool in order to be able to know exactly what content they should be creating, what keywords they should be focusing on. That is definitely one of my favorites. As far as a WordPress plugin, I've been loving Rank Math lately, and I think that's a really great plugin. And those are a couple of my favorite tools, but there's a huge list, so I don't want to, I'm sure the other ladies have some ideas about that as well.
Yeah, I always like to start with what's free from Google. They provide so many great resources, and obviously Google is kind of the big beast of SEO, and so they love themselves, as I like to say. So looking at even just your data in Google Analytics, looking at your data in Google Search Console, as well as everyone knows, page speed is becoming more and more important. So having an understanding of where Google's ranking your page speed and what they recommend to fix from a technical standpoint are good tools as well.
Yeah, Link Whisper is a great WordPress plugin that you can use, and that will actually suggest internal links that you should put on a page. So that's a great tool. It has a lot of other features as well. And then a tool I'm starting to really love for content optimization is a tool called Market Muse. And what that does is it takes a look at your existing page and then basically looks at your competitors and finds essentially semantic keywords and phrases that you do not include on your page that you probably should. So that's a tool that I am absolutely falling in love with.
Yeah, those all sound really great. Well, moving on, ongoing and consistent keyword optimization is another important component of SEO strategy. With the growing popularity of voice-activated devices, smart home hubs, and voice search terms have changed significantly. Lauren, how often should businesses be revisiting their keyword strategy?
Yeah, at an absolute minimum, I would say annually. If seems like an overhaul to do it at all, but definitely doing it annually to make sure that, are you ranking well for the core keywords that you want to rank for? And then taking a look at how algorithms have changed and how they're ranking different keywords, and are they focusing more on long tail keywords? How are users speaking to a device to ask for business information? And a lot of the tools that the ladies here on this webinar have brought up some great tools that will give you additional keywords to think about and consider as you're sprucing up your content. Thinking about it annually and then implementing it doesn't have to be done all in a month. I think coming up with like a block and tackle game plan, what's your high priority content list, and working your way through over the next quarter or 2 quarters or year. And then as you're rethinking that content, take a look at your annual year-over-year results for rankings and impressions and everything that's headed to your website.
Yeah, that's great advice. All right, well, let's switch gears a bit and discuss content. As marketers, we spend a lot of time focusing on the pages that perform well, but what about the pages that don't perform well? Amanda, how important is it to spruce up old content and or identify low performing content that could use a refresh?
It is critically important because it could be the difference between, like Sherry said, cannibalizing, things that are already there, and making sure that you're actually going to be ranking for those important keywords, especially the ones that are really important for your customers, your clients, in order to find you. So I would definitely highly recommend just kind of reviewing that. And, like Lauren said, setting some sort of schedule. I also would recommend probably putting some sort of, I would say, master plan. I don't know if that would be the way that I would go about it, but in a project management system, have everything that you need to update all the time in one place. Like, just have someone go through, create links to everything. So then that way it can be a really quick process instead of a really arduous, like, oh my goodness, I don't know where to begin. Just make a plan and create that.
Yeah, actually, a really great example came up with one of our clients in the past week, where they're getting rid of a service that they've had for a couple of years now, and they're like, where do we even begin? Where is it listed on our website? Where is it listed out there on Google? So having that master list, I think, is a great idea.
Great. Sherry, when should you create new content as opposed to revising old content? Does Google reward old content that's revised?
I think actually Google rewards great content. So it doesn't matter whether it's old or whether it's new. I think they reward high quality content, authoritative content, and content that's relevant to what the searcher's looking for. So as long as those qualities and information are on that page, I don't think it really matters whether it's old or new. So as long as those criteria are met, Google's going to reward you for that. So I think what you should do is obviously keep track of your rankings and see where you are with regard to ranking on Google, whether or not you show up for like featured snippets, whether or not you get any of those extra perks in the search engine ranking pages, the SERPs, to see if you get any of those extra features, those types of things. Are you showing up for people also ask? Those types of things would be awesome if you can, create better quality content to start showing up in those types of features that Google is now starting to show in search engine result pages. So with MUM rolling out, I think that we are going to start thinking about content very, very differently. I'm starting to see more and more blog posts, for instance, having actual links at the top where you can actually listen to articles. And there's more and more services that are starting to do that. MUM basically is going to want to see all sorts of mediums on your page. They're going to want to see audio. They're going to want to see video. They're going to want to see infographics. They're going to want to see images, all sorts of things. And so I think you need to look at content from a real holistic standpoint. And, sometimes that's going to mean combining pieces together so that you're not sabotaging those two pieces. So Google doesn't know which one should I rank, which one is most important. You need to kind of figure that out for yourself and then maybe put those two together so that Google knows this is the most important piece of content on our site, or do that internal linking so that Google can follow that path and know this is the most important piece. So I think a lot of it depends on what you think is most important and what you think has the most authority and is the best quality content that you can put out there for what people are searching for. So a lot of that involves talking to your clients, talking to your customers, figuring out how you can position that piece as the most authoritative and expertise piece on your website. Does that help?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that. Aside from your SEO efforts, your local presence also extends to your local listings and online reputation. A recent study found that 76% of consumers look for a company's online presence before visiting in person, furthering the importance of having accurate data anywhere consumers can find you online. Amanda, how can brands freshen up their listings?
Definitely making sure that you go over everything with the fine-tooth comb. A Google My Business profile or Google Business profile listing is not a super huge project. It should really only take you maybe an hour to go through, comb through, make sure that everything is correct. Nothing has changed. Often in business, we change, when we might close on a Monday now, or, open later on a Tuesday, or any of those things, or you have a vacation planned and your office is going to be shut down or anything like that. You need to be making sure that you refresh that and let Google know that, hey, this is what's going on in my business. Any new products, any new services. Definitely, I recommend doing it at least quarterly. So with the seasons, you could do it every, spring. We're talking about spring today. So, updating that every spring. We provide a spreadsheet for our clients, so then that way they can list out the hours or the days that they're closed every year. So it's really easy for them. They only have to think about it one time. And then we update that in one fell swoop. But if you haven't updated any of your closings or altered hours, I would definitely do that as well. And Google is always adding new attributes and things like that. They haven't added too many lately that I know of, but the Latino owned attribute is one of the most recent ones. So definitely making sure that you're not missing any of those opportunities to identify your business a little bit more.
I also find too, for seasonality, thinking about when you're doing it for spring or fall or winters, making sure that your cover photos, if you are a seasonal business, kind of match that. And you're not, if you're a home improvement business that does roofs, don't make sure if you're looking at it in springtime, it doesn't have a photo of snow.
That's a great point, Lauren, especially for those of us that live in the Midwest where there is snow. The other thing I kind of want to raise with regard to Google business profiles is learn how to, if you're a single location, learn how to manage your Google business profiles in Google search. So you can do that by searching for your business name. Sometimes if you have a generic name, you may have to add the city next to it, or just do a simple search for my business. You'll see your knowledge panel on the right, and you'll see basically the way to navigate and manage your profile on the left-hand side. So get really familiar with how to manage and search. Google has said that the majority of businesses that have claimed Google business profiles are single locations. So get used to that. The other thing I would suggest is that you check frequently to make sure that no edits have been made to your profile without your knowledge. Google will typically send you an email saying, hey, a change has been made, but often those changes have already been made and have gone live on your knowledge panel without you knowing about it. And so, for instance, one of my clients is an appliance center. Someone, probably Google or someone, had made a suggestion about pickup time hours, and the hours were completely wrong. This business is never open past 5, and they had included pickup hours at 5 until 5:30. And so Google can pull information from around the web through other sources, third-party tools, and people can suggest edits. So just always be checking and be aware that your information can change at any time. One of the local high schools here in Cedar Rapids, some kid decided it would be fun to change the school's website to a porn site, and it got through. And so just know that your information on your Google business profile can change at any time. So always be checking.
Quite the story.
Yeah, that's great advice. Always good to keep an eye on that and keep checking. Like you said, that's great. Well, if you have changed locations or expanded your operations, added services, augmented your team, or enhanced your qualifications, your listings and website content might not be the best representation of your company. Lauren, how can brands create a seamless omni-channel experience across all the places customers are searching for their businesses?
Yeah, I think anytime you have a business update, it's always important to post about it, whether that's, putting out a Facebook post, an Instagram post, updating your LinkedIn, even utilizing Google Business Profiles posts. I think any sort of business announcement or update that's a great place to put it. Obviously, on any social platform, there's a way to also link out to a website so that, people can read more on, what's changed. Say you've added a new location to your business, announce it on social platforms, post about it, link over to that specific location page, hopefully that you've built out that goes into those specific location local listings too, for a full just experience for a user.
And along with what Lauren had said, which was great advice, one thing I always would recommend is coming up with almost like a digital marketing brand guide that lists all of the things that people should keep in mind within the company when they are posting on social media, posting on the website. And it's always, I think, a good idea to have a few people responsible for periodically checking that information to make sure that it's accurate and that people are adhering to those guidelines.
Great call.
Yeah, those are great tips. More and more people are using online reviews to make purchasing decisions. Therefore, what others are saying about you can essentially make or break your business. Sherry, aside from Google Business Profile, where else should brands be monitoring their online reputation?
Yeah, so Yelp is obviously one of them. I will caution people, do not ask customers to leave reviews for you on Yelp because it violates Yelp's terms of service, and you can get into trouble for that if Yelp finds out about it. But if you search for bright local and niche citation or niche review sites or specialty review sites, they'll give you a list of specialty review sites per industry. And there are specific industry review sites for landscapers, doctors, chiropractors, dentists, I mean, all sorts of them. And so if you are in one of those specialty industries, the top ones are the ones you should try and rank for. So if you're a car dealer, Edmunds, cars.com, cargurus.com. Some of them are paid. You have to pay to be on them. Some of them are free, but lawyers have their own, like avo.com. So there's a ton of them out there. So what I would recommend is that you take a look at your industry, see if there's specific review sites that are specific to your industry, and see if you can get listed on those sites, and then spread your reviews out. I mean, obviously Google Business Profile is one of the most important places to get reviews, but Facebook, getting those feedback, I don't think they call them reviews anymore, but getting those positive feedbacks on reviews is important, because sometimes your Facebook profile will show up on your knowledge panel. So spreading your reviews out is a great strategy. You don't always want to have your reviews in one spot. So spreading those out is great. Trustpilot is great. That's a paid for platform. But again, if you're in an industry where there's specific niche review sites, get listed on those.
Yeah, I'd also say double check.
Sure that your business reviews work there too. Thank you so much. Lauren, let's have you answer the next question. Thinking of strategy at a high level, in an ideal world, how often should brands be refreshing their marketing strategy?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to lay out a game plan annually. That way you have just a really loose plan that's, okay, here's what we're going to focus on. Here's maybe some content themes that we're going to focus on. Maybe it's by quarter, by season, by month. And then narrow in on those, whether it's by month or by quarter. But I think having that overall game plan, like prepared in a year advance, you can plan out photo shoots, you can plan out content ideas, you can plan out promotions that you're going to be running. Maybe you have an e-commerce platform that's going to launch and you want to add that into your marketing plan for the year. So by having that kind of rough idea laid out annually, and then ahead of each quarter or each month, if you want to get that last minute with it, you can talk more about the messaging strategy, you can talk more about the promotional strategy. You can even dive in down to each individual post that you're going to go out, and each content piece that's going to go into that post, and email communication that's going to go out. But laying out the framework annually is a good idea.
Great. Thank you for that. I'm going to open up this final question to everyone, all of the panelists, as I think you'll all have some great concluding thoughts to share with our audience today. Do you all have any final thoughts to share to give marketing strategy a fresh look this spring and beyond?
I can go ahead and start if that's okay. One thing is SEO and algorithms are always changing. So definitely use your tools to evaluate your site and your pages often. Do technical audits, at least maybe once a quarter, and really dig in and see if there are any technical issues. Look at your site speed. And then, as I mentioned, I really think MUM is going to really change how SEOs think. So you may want to start taking your own photos instead of using stock photos, or using, if you're an e-commerce site, instead of using the photos that the manufacturer sends you, because those are the same pictures that, 500 other e-commerce sites have on them. And then I think the other thing you want to start doing is start building up at least one or two people within your company to be industry experts, by having them be interviewed on webinars like we're doing right here, or interviewed on podcasts, or starting to guest blog. So Google really wants to see authoritative people. And if you can build one or two people within your company to become known within the industry as experts, Google will start seeing that within your company, have those people start writing content on your website, and eventually that will start to pay off. So those would be my suggestions.
Great. I know, Sherry, you kind of mentioned this earlier, but simply do a Google search. I think that's always a good way to just remind yourself and how your business shows up. Searching your brand name and just seeing where you are at on the first page. What pages are pulling up? What websites are pulling up? What's your knowledge panel saying that Sherry you mentioned earlier? And then compare yourself to your competitors. You know your direct competitors. Google them. What are maybe you missing out on that you haven't thought about that your competitors are starting to do? Sometimes we get so into the weeds on things that sometimes you just need to do the simple Google search and see where some opportunities lie.
One thing that I'll add is I think it's really, really important to have an outside party, potentially even a customer, a client, someone to go to your website, review it, ask them, a simple question like, how do you book an appointment with me? Or, any of those things. And then that way they can walk through that experience and tell you if there's any friction there. And then also they can tell you if there's any links broken. They can tell you anything that might be hindering your progress as it deals to that user experience and the client related experience. I think is really important. And again, creating that master plan and master, like Lauren was saying about the planning. And I would try, because we're in the spring, use this opportunity to not only clean up everything that you have going on, but also organize it and make sure that it's really easy. So then that way, when you do this in another 3 months, then it's super simple and it takes you a lot less time.
Great. Thank you all for that. Great advice. Well, we do have a couple of questions in our Q&A, so I'm going to read them out. And then if any of you have some input here, I'm just going to start with the first one here. It says, when it comes to listing services on your Google business profile, how do you keep random services from being added? This user's had some issues with services being added and only to have them added back later after they've removed them.
Yeah, you can't really stop that from happening because Google is adding those based on either information it finds on your website or from some other resource or a user suggested edit. And so the only thing you can do is basically change them back and either delete that service. So for instance, one time I had pest control added as a service that my agency, digital marketing agency, offered. And that's because Google scraped my website and found out that I was talking about a client that was a pest control company. And so that's why they added pest control as a service that I offered. So Google is not infallible and they do make mistakes.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. We've had numerous clients with this issue, and it's just, you got to keep fixing it. And I think one of the things, to your point, Sherry, is, if they're adding a specific service on there, do your own research. Do you have that listed? It could even be in a review if you have reviews pulling in on your website. So do a little bit more digging, do a little bit more research, see if it's listed anywhere. And if you can remove it, that might help.
And look on other online directories. So I know in the help forum, one time we had Google pulls in descriptions that are based dynamically on other information they find on the internet. And she said, we no longer sell tapas at our restaurant. And I want Google to change our description. But I found on one of the other online directories, they had a menu up that said that they sold that menu item. And so when I pointed that out to her, I said, you need to go to that online directory and have that menu taken down. And maybe eventually Google will get the clue that you no longer sell it, but that's about all you can do. So keep in mind that Google pulls information from anywhere. So it's important to keep information updated. So if you find an anomaly like that, know that they're probably pulling it in from somewhere, like Lauren said.
Thank you. Yeah, hopefully that was helpful. The next question we have here is, does listing accepted insurances on GBPs affect ranking? We are currently thinking of asking new clients for this information to be able to list on their Google business profile.
I don't think I understand the question.
I think the question, if maybe you're a doctor's office or something and you accept certain
Oh,
insurance
insurance. Oh,
companies,
got it.
I would include it because a lot of people do search for doctors or dental offices and they include, dentist that accepts my insurance, and list that insurance name. So I think by having it on your Google business profiles, it'll actually help you rank if people are searching for that specific insurance.
Yes, I always encourage our clients that are like counselors and things like that that do take private insurance or health insurance. I do always encourage them to try to fill that out, because any information that you can give Google is just going to give them more information and find you the actual right people instead of wasting their time, wasting your time. It's really going to get those correct clients, whatever I guess you would call them, clients in that industry, or patients, depending, into your practice.
Plus it will cut down on the phone calls your receptionist gets.
Definitely.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much for that. And then there was one other question that it was not in the Q&A, but I think someone was asking if anyone can touch on the new Google Discover.
Yeah, I mean, what I know of Google Discover is it's just taking curated like articles or videos or audio content and pulling it into a feed for people to really discover new content. I don't think they've really pushed it out very heavily yet. I think they're still kind of in like a beta phase of, is this going to take over maybe podcasting, or are we going to be able to compete with Apple Music or things of that nature? I don't know if you guys have anything else.
I don't really have anything. The thing that there was I can't remember what it was called, but there was something before. I don't know if any of you remember it, but it kind of reminds me of that. It was a feed on your phone. Remember what it was called? It started with an S, I think. I don't know.
Well, and I think that transition to Google Discover middle of last year, early last year, as they were testing to see if it was going to be, if they were going to be able to have a content hub that was good for people to go to.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, and I like that feature. Unfortunately, it seems like it always changes the minute I look at it. I open up my phone, look at it, and then I think I see something I like, and then all of a sudden the whole screen changes into a whole bunch of different articles. So it's like,
Yeah.
I think there's bugs. I think they're still working on a lot of stuff.
Well, thank you all for that. Well, that wraps up the Q&A, and it wraps up our discussion for today. So we've covered a lot, and I hope you found it to be informative and actionable. If there are any questions we didn't get to, we'll make sure to follow up afterward. We'd also be happy to answer any questions you didn't have a chance to ask. If you'd like to shoot us a note at marketing@rioseo.com. I'd like to thank everyone for joining today's discussion, and a special thank you to our panelists, Sherry, Lauren, and Amanda, for taking the time to be with us today. If you'd like, you can go ahead and let the audience know how they can best reach you. All right. And we will be sending out the webinar recording within the next 24 hours. It was a pleasure to moderate today's discussion. As a reminder, we host these types of local search conversations every month. Our next webinar will be on Thursday, May 19th, where we will share the marketing metrics that matter the most to measure local performance in 2022. And we hope to see you there. Thanks again for joining us today.
Thanks, Pam.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.